All right, guys.
Welcome to the Deer Shot Podcast, presented by Siman Brothers Outdoors and the Leaky John Boat Company.
He went and watched a movie that has a $200 million production budget, and then the next thing he watched was our video on YouTube that has a $0 production budget.
This is the first buck I've shot in over 10 years.
Your track job was the first fun track job. That kind of like, I think part of my life was influenced by that night.
Then you miss him 3 times with a rifle at 70 yards on video for the whole world to see.
Yeah, that's what Caleb did. 5 years ago, we couldn't shoot a deer at 100 yards with a slug gun. Now you're shooting turkeys at 100 yards with a shotgun.
Joey takes
The shop is closing up.
Make sure he takes all his right antlers. You can't leave it.
All right, guys. I'm taking over for Caleb today. Deer Shot Podcast number 88. We are in the studio here. If you're watching, you can see with Uncle Jay and Dylan Horner. And today we are talking about shed dogs.
Yeah. Thanks for having me on. Cheers. The usual cheers.
Cheers.
Good to see you guys. Haven't seen you in a minute.
I know.
So it is Sunday morning, March, 30th, almost the end of March. We're doing this in the morning. This podcast will go live tomorrow, so it's as live as it can be.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit different than normal. We're not drinking beers and bourbon, even though Jay might have gotten into
I got
the
a
bourbon.
little Irish coffee. Sue me.
So he got into the bourbon a little bit. But today we're going to talk about shed dogs. But before we get to that, we're kind of going to just go through what's going on in our lives outdoor-wise. Jay's got some exciting stuff coming up. Dylan's got some exciting stuff coming up. I've got somewhat exciting stuff coming up.
Well,
life stuff.
Yeah, yours
I got
life
stuff, but I still got a lot of outdoor stuff coming up as well.
Well, start with you. What's new?
Well, we're getting ready to go trout fishing and turkey hunting.
Going this weekend.
You're going?
Trout fishing.
Oh, yeah, you guys are going
Excited.
this weekend.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Man, this is flying.
I know.
It's wild.
So the Siman Brothers aren't going for another 3 weeks, but we have turkey season in 2 weeks. This is the quickest turkey season's come for me, I can imagine.
3 weeks.
2.
21st.
Isn't it the 12th?
No, that's
the
youth
16th.
season. 19th.
19th? Easter weekend? So regardless, 3 weeks. People will be hunting turkeys in 2 weeks, though, which it just seems like we went from winter to it's turkey season.
This winter was brutal too.
Oh,
Nonstop
longest
cold.
winter I can remember since I was a kid.
Sucked.
And as we say that, it may be 60 degrees out today, but it is raining.
Still
and
gross.
it's going to
Yeah.
be shitty all day long.
Windy.
We talked about maybe going shed hunting, but I don't think that's unless you want to go out in the mud.
no.
You don't want to give Kaya a bath today.
No, what's like personally though? How's the?
Oh, I'm getting ready to get married, getting ready to build a house.
Yeah, that's
it all.
crazy, man.
That's going to be my life for the next 12 months, probably.
Yeah, but everything's going smooth.
Oh, yeah. Smooth as can be. Plans are changing for the fall, unfortunately, but we'll get into that a little bit when we probably talk about Jay's hunt in a future podcast. We'll talk about my future plans and from there. But
What do you got coming up?
Turkeys. Lots of turkeys.
Yeah.
I got next week. Well, this weekend's trout fishing. Then week after that, the 13th or 12th weekend, going to Kentucky for the opener. Staying with some buddies down there and hunting a bunch of public land, and then Ohio hunting for 2 weeks, and then going to Nebraska and South Dakota.
Sweet.
so yeah, you're kind of underplaying the whole turkeys thing.
Yeah.
You sent us like a breakdown of your fall, and it's like, or your
Every
spring,
weekend.
and it's like turkeys, trout fishing,
Yeah.
turkeys. Wife's birthday, and then turkeys for another month.
Yeah, I love it. It's something that it's always been fun, and I love chasing them.
That's cool,
why
man.
I'm excited because Western turkey's new for me. I've never done it before, so that'll
You're gonna love it, man.
That'll be fun. And then always wanted to start on the slam somehow, so that's a good way. We might hunt some Rios halfway through Nebraska, depending on if we can find them or if we have time to stop. So we might try that. The Merriam's pretty much the whole time.
So there's Rios in Nebraska too.
Eastern, yeah.
Really?
So we're gonna see what it looks like. I haven't done any research on it, but the one kid they've killed Merriam's out there, but they've been out there a lot more than I have.
So going back to when we went to Nebraska deer hunting, 3 or 4 or 5 years ago, whenever that was, what were those turkeys we were seeing?
Probably Miriam.
We
Depending
thought they
where
might
you
have been
were.
Eastern.
Central. So they're probably
some of them
now
have
the one I killed a true Miriam in where he's going.
Yeah, yours is an obvious Miriam.
Yeah. So as you cross over Central, there's hybrid, which is mostly a Miriam and Eastern cross.
And then in
And
Southeastern, there's Rios.
And then I think you have to go what's south of Nebraska? Oklahoma,
Kansas.
and then Oklahoma.
Yeah.
I think you have to start getting south, even south.
Yeah, they're all Texas.
Yeah,
Kansas,
yeah.
Oklahoma.
So I don't know. I know most of Nebraska is hybrid.
Okay.
According to the NWTF, they start getting true Merriams where he's going northwest, where Wyoming and South Dakota come together. That's the Pine Ridge area. That's where you're going to find true Merriams.
So those were all
hunted that.
Merriams that we were videotaping.
From the truck, that probably
Okay.
they looked like it. They had all white feathers, white tips. But where we went deer hunting last couple days, further west, that's where we're going. We're going to be in that whole unit there.
Yeah, because the whole western turkey scene is so strange, especially with the species. Because remember, we were seeing easterns in northwest Montana.
Yeah.
And they were definitively eastern turkeys that we could
wild.
tell.
Yeah. Yep. So, but yeah, you're going to have a blast, dude. Because Merriams, like behavior-wise, are so different than Easterns.
That's what I've heard.
They are chatty.
Yeah.
They're not. They might not come as much, but they'll talk to you all day.
And they're bigger flocks usually when you're hunting them, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And
And
seasonally, yes.
So you could call in a dozen turkeys.
but
Around
like
here,
when
we're
I
calling
killed
in
mine,
singles.
I called in 2 toms.
yeah.
And it was wild because they flew across this giant ravine. I've never seen.
Turkeys out there do it.
They don't do
You
it here
know.
very often.
Yeah, I mean, they were like on this other side of the ravine, and I'm just thinking I'm having a good time talking to them. And all of a sudden, they both flew to me, and I was like, "Oh
awesome.
shit!" And it was fun, man. That
That's
was
awesome.
one of my favorite hunts. Like, and I'm not nearly as educated or as good at turkey hunting as you guys. To this day, one of my favorite hunts.
That's awesome.
It was a lot of fun.
I'm excited. And then I think Ohio, I'm sticking with the recurve. I got some redemption to do. I gotta try it.
So you missed one.
Last year, I
And
hunted
had
with it.
close opportunities a couple other times.
Yeah, I hunted with it all year last year in Ohio, and then, what was it? Probably I think it was a Thursday morning. The last season went out on a Sunday, and I was just fed up with it. Not fed up with it, but wanted to go. Took my gun, and of course had probably one of the easiest hunts I ever had.
Shoot him
Bird
at 10
comes
yards,
in
stand
from here to the wall, sitting there, beats decoy up, and I had all the time in the world to move. It was
awesome.
picture perfect.
That's one of the things. Really, the only thing I have to add to this is I'm all in on the Alaska stuff. It's what I, am living right now. From the time I wake up to the time I go to bed, I'm researching, I'm planning, I'm packing, I'm weighing things, blah blah blah. But my new venture is the photography stuff.
Yeah.
Bought an expensive camera.
Videography.
Both.
Oh,
I'm
okay,
learning.
okay.
I'm taking classes on both.
That's one thing that I know nothing about is photography. Besides taking a picture as I'm taking a
That's
video.
what's
That's all
so
I know.
cool about the camera that you recommended is that it is, from all accounts, I think you're going to find
It's a hybrid
It's a hybrid camera, right? So like it doesn't do one or the other exceptional. It does both of them pretty damn well. So if I can tag along on some turkey hunts, because that's like the type of hunt I would enjoy filming.
Yeah.
That I would be like, most hunts I'd be like, no, I want to fucking hunt,
Yeah.
dude. This I could totally be the cameraman.
Turkey season's fun around here though, because we'll come here, cook breakfast in the morning, go
Yeah,
back out.
it's a lot
and,
more
like,
fun to film turkey hunts than it is deer hunts too, because you're going out
Less
there
stressful.
in the action, and when the action's not happening, you can kind of goof off a little bit.
Yeah,
You're not.
I'm
sitting there
looking
in a
forward
tree
to it,
stand.
man. This is going to be like, I almost feel dirty that Caleb's not part of this podcast because like we're like, this is right up his alley.
Yeah.
and,
Yeah.
Oh, he loves it.
His life stuff is getting in the way.
Yeah, he was 100% in on the podcast, and then he was 100% out.
Yeah, the wife said
His 1-year-old daughter's birthday party is in 2 hours, so that's why he is not here.
so. Shame on him for not getting his priorities straight.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
So-
I think I'll be hunting, 6 different
yeah.
states
So one
this
more
year.
question for you: what's the most amount of turkeys you've ever shot in a year, and how many tags do you have this year? I guess that's 2
I
questions.
think just 2.
You've only ever shot 2.
3, maybe
Yeah, because
3.
did you
'Cause I've
not
killed
start
a
hunting out of state until Ohio went to 1?
No, because we did PA all the time. I did Kentucky, but I've only killed, like last year I did a bird in PA and then bird in Ohio. I think only 2. And then when Ohio was 2, I used to kill 2 every year.
Yeah.
But I think for the most part, this year I'll have 1 Ohio, 2 Kentucky, 2 PA, 2 Nebraska, and 1 South Dakota.
So you have 8 tags.
Yeah.
Possibly.
Nice.
And if you guys murder them out west, you can get a couple
Wyoming
more tags
over
for
the
other
counter,
states.
yeah. Yep.
That'd be crazy. Come back.
Yeah.
So do you have a chance well, I guess there's no Osceola, but you have a chance for 3 different species?
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah.
Because what is there, 5 technically?
Well, 4 I think is what
Plus
they're
the
including
Mexican one.
the slam, the ocellated turkey in Mexico. But the 4 is the Osceola, Rios, Merriam's, Easterns, and then they have golds or golds,
Yeah.
whatever they
Golds.
call them.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I don't have any idea. Are they in the States or are they in Texas?
I don't think
Mexico?
so. I think they're Mexico.
I
But
can't
I don't
remember.
know, dude. I'm not a turkey guy.
No, I
We'll
wouldn't.
see how your Western goes, and maybe you can go for a slam.
Yeah,
one of these.
no, I would stick to the 4: Eastern, Merriam, Rio, and Osceola.
Okay.
Because I have some intel and information on Florida stuff from my brother, so that could be in the future.
Beautiful.
So I'm excited. Yeah.
So I'm stoked for you,
Yeah,
man.
I'm pumped too. Jay, what do you got?
As far, are we getting the shed dog, kicking off the shed dog stuff or something else?
Yeah, you just mentioned Alaska a little bit.
Yeah.
You're pretty much going full in on that. I know we
Yeah.
could talk about this shit all day long if we wanted to.
Honestly, we're just keeping it short because I'm sure it's going to be its own podcast. Training like a madman. Cleaning up. I haven't started dieting, but I've cleaned up my diet. I'm down 15-ish, 17-ish pounds. Got about another 20 to go. I'm let's see what my countdown is. I'm 5 months, 2 days, and 14 hours out.
From liftoff?
From liftoff.
That's awesome.
I've pretty much got, I've bought trip insurance. That's a rabbit hole.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure I got the right shit, but I wasn't going to spend $2,000 on insurance for, this trip that costs X amount. It wasn't worth the ratio.
Yeah.
So I bought the most basic package I could find for $400. It looks like it would cover.
So if shit goes south, you'll get some money back.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
Yeah. And I feel like I have a good enough relationship with my pilot that if things were to really go bad, we'll work something out.
Cut you a little bit of a deal.
So, but the logistics are done. Over the last couple of weeks, I fly into Anchorage. I take a shuttle. We're going to work that. I actually just became friends with a local by chance because I bought something up from him off Rock Slide, and he lives in that town.
That's awesome.
He's like, hey, if you need anything, let me know. So we exchanged numbers, which is awesome. Where my pilot has a hangar, I will take a flight from there to a fly in and out only town. It's a town of like 300 people. That's wild. No roads.
It's like Alaska State Troopers town that they show.
And then he's got a plane there, and then we go remote from there.
So he's hopping planes with you.
Mm-hmm.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah. So
How long is the whole, traveling, do you think, until you get to where you're getting dropped off?
So I believe from Anchorage to his first plane is about an hour north of Anchorage. It's not that terribly far. And then the first flight is several hours. And then from there, it's a couple hours from there. So
That's nuts.
So you're getting flown into the interior of Alaska,
yeah,
basically.
yep.
That's sweet.
Yeah.
And then the plan is to I land in Anchorage on the 2nd. That gives the season opens the 5th, so that gives me a couple days to get in. My goal is to get in before the season opens because Alaska laws you can't hunt the day you land.
Mm-hmm.
So making use of time, I'm hoping I'm hunting opening day, and the season's 5th through the 20th. And I hope I'm out there, boots on the ground, 3rd or the 4th.
You've been practicing your moose calling?
Yeah, yeah.
I want to hear it.
Kaya thinks I'm amazing.
So what do you have for a moose call? Because I see people use all sorts of different.
So there's basically 3 calls. There's the cow in heat, which is the obnoxious moan.
Mm-hmm.
There's the grunts, like the which is the bull, and then you've got like a lot of people will use a scapula bone and just rake.
Yeah.
Other than that, that's basically all you got.
So are you taking a store bought
I'm gonna buy the
Because I've seen it's like an oil jug that they put a hose on. I've seen that one a lot.
Yeah, the guy I've seen people use nothing and just do
They just do the voice.
Yep. I will get that weird tube that is kind of like the commercial version of it. Why not?
Yeah.
And I've seen guys double that as the
raker.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's kind of 2 in 1.
Yeah.
Right now, my biggest challenge is getting the weight because I'm taking a Super Cub, so it's the pilot, me, and if I get down to 195, 200 pounds, that's going to give me 135 pounds of gear for, I have to plan if I were to shoot something the last day, 3 days, 4 days on the back end.
Because of weather, you need
Because
food
of
for that.
weather or just packing out. It's going to take me days to pack something out by myself. So I'm planning for 20 plus days of gear, food, all that in 135 pounds. So I'm kind of dialing that in and manipulating all that stuff. And
you're bringing the camera gear too.
And I'm bringing the camera gear.
So that's going to be, you got to
For sure. That's something I've never done, other than just a GoPro.
Yeah.
Because that is going to up your weight
For sure.
dramatically.
Yep, for sure. So, yeah.
Exciting times.
Yeah.
And I know you love the logistics. I'm sure you have spreadsheets and shit.
I do. It's so fun. I'm looking at pie charts of my weight of here's your sleep system. That accounts for X amount percentage of your overall weight.
Can I bring an actual pillow? Or
Exactly.
Can I not?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's fun, man.
Cool. Well, I'm excited to talk about that again at a later date. We'll definitely have you on before you go to just give us the whole rundown because I want to do a before trip and after trip.
Yep.
Come back all grizzled and bear claws in your
shave
face
yet.
and shit.
Don't shave.
Big old beard.
I will not shave.
All right, perfect.
Yeah.
But we might as well get into the topic at hand since we're already almost 20 minutes into this thing.
Yep.
We are talking about little Miss Kaya down here.
Yep.
And
What's she doing? She's sleeping?
shed
Oh,
dogs.
Just looking.
Yeah.
So some people might not know that Jay has his own shed dog. He trained her. She's kind of retired at this point.
Yeah.
Would you say?
Yep, for sure. I took her out to Southern Ohio just a couple weeks ago, just for more of a hike and scouting thing, just to see what she would do. And she's definitely retired. She's 10, going on 11. She'll be 11 in September.
Looks like she's in good shape for.
Yeah, she's still in
For a
good
lab.
shape. She hung in there. We got about 5.5 miles in, and it was Southern Ohio, man. It was the terrain was up and down, and we found a couple sheds. I saw them. I directed her to them, and then it was funny. She would paw at it, pick it up, but she couldn't hold it, and she was whimpering like she knew that there was something to be done, and she just wasn't doing it. 'Cause she's been out of the game.
She's just out of practice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So disclaimer, I am not a pro. I am not a dog trainer. I am a guy who, when I get interested in something, I go all in.
Oh yeah.
And that's what I did with this training.
I think that's all of us. Though.
Yeah, for sure.
When I get something on my brain, I want to just go all in on it.
Yeah. Yep.
And until I have it, then I'm satisfied. It's kind of bad when you want to buy something and it's like,
I'm buying it now.
Yeah.
like God, I can't wait. I gotta buy it just to
Yeah.
let it sit there like that canvas tent I just
100%.
bought. I wanted it so bad. Just bought it.
Yeah.
So one thing that I noticed about shed dogs, they're almost like a mythical thing. Like you see videos and you hear about people release their shed dog into the woods. They come back with 10 sheds. I've never actually seen that in person. I don't know
because it
anybody.
doesn't exist. And here's the thing that I've noticed about shed dogs and social media is what you won't see is live camera action of them organically finding a shed.
Yeah, release that dog into my woods. Go find a shed.
Right. So it's pretty. I want to say the statistic thrown out there was a shed dog will improve your shed findings 20 to 30%, which is a lot less than what I think people expect.
It's not the magic pill.
There's no magic pill. Kaya has found dozens, but the amount of miles that equates to is, and again, I'm speaking from my singular experience. I've taken her to Southern Ohio. I've taken her around here. I've taken her around Columbus. I've taken her to Iowa. Iowa was probably her biggest week collectively. She found organically on her own.
So that was in the peak of your training.
In the
You're
peak
like,
of our
I'm going on
training.
a shed trip just for her.
Yep, and went out to where I killed the same farms I killed my booner at.
Yeah.
They are great shed farms.
Unimpressive booner.
They're she really, like my buddy Brad that is nice enough to have me out there. It was funny. I didn't expect it, but all of a sudden, like we had split up. We were walking 2 different drainages, and all of a sudden, like Kaya's just doing her thing. I don't even know where she's at, and I hear Jay, and I look over the hill, and there's Kaya sitting there with a shed in her mouth, like trying to give it to Brad. And I'm like, wait, whose dog are you? What are you doing? Yeah, the wrong dude. But awesome. It was awesome. It was cool. So again, I'm not a pro. I'm not a dog trainer. I'm a dude that put a lot of hours in, and I'm just going to talk about what my method was and what worked for me and what worked for Kaya.
It all depends on the dog.
I think it depends on the. I think it depends less on the dog than it does you. And what I mean by that is people's patience and egos. Mm-hmm. You have to remember that there's some real basic things that go into training a dog, no matter what. And that's putting the mentality in. You have to be patient. And if the dog's fucking up, it's your fault, not the dog's. Mm-hmm. And it's so hard. I think it was hard for me to not get frustrated but you have to think of it like a baby. Mm-hmm. The baby doesn't know anything. You're teaching the baby, and if the baby's not learning, it's your fault.
Mm-hmm. The thing that it's doing wrong, you taught it.
Right. You're doing something wrong.
Yeah.
So, I kind of broke this down into chronological, tried to make it a building blocks thing. And again, it starts with the dog and picking a dog. What do you want to accomplish? I was all in. So I went to a breeder. I got a 100% purebred lab.
So this started before you even have the dog.
Yes.
Because most people are like, oh, I got a lab, let's train it.
Yeah,
or, I got this dog.
No.
I want to make it a shed dog.
I was the other way around. I was
Did your research.
going to get a shed dog.
Yeah.
And I have some very close friends that are in the veterinarian industry. So I reached out to them and I'm like, hey, so if you're me, how would you go about this? And they said, you need to interview the breeder. Mm-hmm. And a good breeder will welcome that and be open and talk about everything. And one of the key questions you need to ask your breeder is references and who's your vet, and I want to talk to your vet.
Yeah.
Because so many people have bad experiences with health issues
Yeah.
down the line of breeders.
Yeah.
And if a breeder is not willing to talk to you about their vet, that's a red flag. Run.
Yeah.
Find someone who's like open and honest and is confident enough in their dogs that they're like, here's my vet. Give them a call.
Because all these issues that dogs have will run in those bloodlines, right?
Correct.
Whether they have hip issues
Yep.
or stomach issues or... Gotcha.
So I will shout out the breeder. It's Donna Reese up in what's the snow belt east of Cleveland?
Euclid area?
No, further east.
Oh, Ashtabula?
Yeah, up in that area. Her and she has a split breed. Like part of them are in Iowa, part of them are here, and it's Ridgeview Labs. Donna Reese. She was awesome. She's pretty hardcore. She's tough. I believe she's former military, but this happened to be a happy mistake. I was talking to my friend who worked at the big vet in North Ridgeville. I forget what they're called. But I was talking to him. He was a veterinarian there. And he goes, oh, Donna Reese? He goes, yeah, she brings her dogs here. And he goes, dude, if I were to get a lab, it would be from her.
Now, when you go to pick a dog, obviously labs are the superior to training and finding sheds, or is there other?
I don't think I've seen a shed dog that wasn't a lab.
I don't think so either, but I'm sure they can. They train them.
I'm sure they do. And
I didn't know if you went down that rabbit hole or not.
I did a little bit, and I actually thought about getting a crossbreed from a buddy of mine who's had a golden retriever that got, I think, knocked up by a lab, and I'm like, that might be a good crossbreed.
Yeah, and
I ended up not. It was. Donna's prices are very reasonable for really good bloodlines, and here's Kaya in perfect health, 11 years later, and she's arguably the best dog anybody could ask for,
She was exactly what you wanted.
She was exactly what I wanted. She's a little on the smaller side, but I don't hate that either.
Is there any research that you did that deterred you from getting a male or a female, or females just learn quicker?
Yeah, so there actually was. This is bro science, but there is something to be said that there is a little bit of talk in the trainer world that females can be better trained,
more focused.
They're less defiant.
Yeah, and you don't need a big dog. Like, I know a lot of people get big male labs for goose hunting because they're picking up big birds and waterfowl swimming.
Sure.
But you don't need that.
No, nope. She was great. There was no shed that was too big. She's going to be able to.
And you come across that, you got some more work to do.
Last thing with the breeder, any shed hunting bloodline in there, or did you specifically just go for a good
trainable dog?
Yeah, good trainable,
a well-bred dog, basically.
Yep. And I'm trying to remember
if there
was any shed dog history in the bloodline. I don't think there was.
It's not a popular thing, so
no.
Not in Ohio,
but as far as championship bloodline, though, there was.
Okay.
There was that in her bloodline, but it wasn't like I didn't spend thousands of dollars on her. Like, she was a very reasonably priced dog. And man, I would have paid, if I could have known, I would have paid twice.
Yeah, gotcha.
Right. So, as far as training a dog, again, the most important is your mentality, putting your ego aside, and patience, and understanding that if the dog's not doing something, it's your fault. You need to figure it out. It's not the dog's fault. I am a big proponent of positive enforcement, not negative. Okay. So there was no punishment for doing something wrong. It was all encouragement for when she did it right.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Question: you bring her home from the breeder. Does she become a house dog? Does she become a working dog? Does regular obedience come first, then shed hunting train?
Yep. And I was just getting ready to go.
So puppy comes home and
it starts with strict, basic obedience. I think this is pretty universally accepted. You will not be able to train a dog without basic obedience.
Okay. So it's not like a rabid dog that's staying outside.
Nope.
Doing that kind of thing. This is a house dog.
It was a house dog that I trained. And you have to understand, when you have a puppy, their attention span is a child. You only have a couple minutes a day that you build on, and you build on, and you build on, and it's building blocks. And it starts with silly things like, you don't get to eat when you want to eat.
Yeah.
You eat when I tell you you're going to eat.
So you start with regular dog obedience.
It's basic dog obedience. And let me back up a little bit when it comes to if this is something you want to tackle. There are a million trainers out there and a million resources. And you need to get online and find something that makes sense to you. Because if you're trying to teach something that doesn't make sense to you, you're just not going to teach it well. So I found 3 people that I basically did a 3-person, 3-dog trainer hybrid on how I approached things with her. And that's these up here, Bill Hillman. Shout out to Bill Hillman. I don't know if people know him or not. These 3 DVDs I focused on. It's basic obedience, it's training a retriever, and then it's e-collar training, and I'll get into that later. And then there's Tom Dokken, who is a shed dog legend, and Jeremy Moore, who came up with this. This is a flexible shed. It's not going to hurt the dog. And that's one of the key things when you start with a puppy. You don't want to turn them off. Like using a lab, labs have a soft mouth. They're bred for soft mouth. Feathers, ducks, birds. So you're trying to overcome that. And just in its most basic principle, if you take this thing and throw it out for a puppy to grab and she pokes her eye, she's going to be turned off. Yeah. She's like, I don't want to get that.
Forever.
Like, forever.
You might have just...
You've just imprinted a negative thing. You want to make everything positive, and that's where this thing is. It's flexible. It's soft. It's called the dog bone.
Like a chew toy.
Yeah, it's like a chew toy. But again, it has its purpose, and it's to introduce them into. There's nothing wrong with
the shape and
the shape, the visual. Yep, you can add scent to it, all that. So, Bill Hillman, Tom Dokken, Jeremy Moore. I did a rabbit hole on all three and kind of took pieces of each and put it together. And I'm like, kind of formulated this matrix that I was going to apply to my dog. Yeah. And it ended up working out. Basic obedience, eating. When you say they're going to eat, not just having a bowl of food for them to get anytime. Mm-hmm. Like you put it in, this is training. It's putting bowl of food, sitting them there, and then letting you verbally let them know when they're going to eat. Mm-hmm. To this day, if I put a bowl of food, she sits and waits. Yeah. And she will sit there. I've actually forgot. And like I come back 20 minutes later and there's a pool of drool. She's still sitting there like, listen, asshole, when do I get to eat? So it's crate training is big. People think crate training, I've heard negative things about crate training. You got to understand, at one time, these things were wolves. And
foraging for food every day.
And they have a den. And crate training is a DNA thing. It's their safe space for them to go to. And boy, when she got crate trained now, it's weird. She is associated. Anytime I take a shower, I'm getting ready to go somewhere, she goes in her crate.
It's like her halfy safe
yeah, space. She's like, oh, I know Jay's getting ready to leave, so I'm going to go into my home.
Yeah. And
she goes in there. So that's a big one. Collar training, I learned from Bill. It's the opposite of what you'd think. Everybody associates electric collars with shocking them when they do bad. Yeah. So you need to spend the money on a good one, and the end result ends up being, you put an e-collar on them, and it ends up being a 1,000-yard leash. So in its most basic form, when you start training, you have a lead, and anytime you tug on that lead, she sits. So you associate the tug with a sit, okay? When you put the e-collar on its lowest setting, it feels like this. I put it on myself. It literally feels like someone pinches your skin and just pulls.
A little tug.
That becomes the lead at 1,000 yards. So I could see her 1,000 yards away, exaggerating obviously, a couple hundred yards away. I hit that number 2
sits,
and she sits.
Now, did yours have a beeper on it? I've seen a lot of guys have the beeper.
Correct, and the beeper is with the sound association to come.
Okay.
So how that came was me doing the sit with the physical lead, and then beeping and pulling her towards me. And over time, she associates the beep with come. So I can make her sit at a 200 yards, and then the beep, she knows to come to me.
That's awesome.
So, and then that graduates into hand signals. Go left, go right. And that comes with time. And again, like however you apply that training.
So a well-trained shed dog, you can tell them to go certain
She
ways.
does it, to this day.
So they're not just out there going on their own. You're telling them where to go.
Yep.
I've hunted with a lot of waterfowl dogs, and there's, you can beep them, they stop, and they turn around, look, all the hand signals this way, back, come, or this, and you'll see his dog run 500 yards, get a goose, come back.
And that's exactly, so you start putting those things together. It's a lot of retriever training.
Yeah.
A lot of
repetitiveness to get them to understand it.
Yep. And it's like people think there's shed training, there's this training. A lot of it crosses over. Yeah. So like I would say almost probably 90% of her training is shed training, but instead of ducks or birds, it's sheds.
Yeah. Yep.
So
yeah, I've heard a lot of people refer to any kind of retrieval dogs or stuff like that. They call them a tool.
Yes,
because they're doing. You're training them to do what they want to do or what you want them to do, and
right.
So we got the puppy home. We got obedience training started. We got shed training started. How do you get to the antler retrieval training? How does that begin?
So that starts in baby steps. It starts with this. So you don't want to turn them off to it. You start playing with this.
Yeah, I was just going to ask you, when do you introduce it to them? After a couple weeks, month,
yeah,
year?
It was. So she was a couple months old before. Once I felt she was good, I had a solid obedience base. I started it because I want her to. You're going backwards if you do it without basic obedience because they're not understanding what to do yet.
Yeah, and if you give this to her,
it's just a free-for-all.
When she gets home, it's
a free-for-all.
Chew toy.
Yeah, it's a toy and it means nothing.
Yeah.
So these dogs thrive off having a purpose. That's what they live for. People think it's cruel. It's not cruel. It's cruel to not give them a purpose. They're not meant to just sit on the couch all day.
They're working.
They're working dogs,
They
and
were
that's
bred
what
from
makes
wolves.
them happy.
Yeah.
And so once she got a good understanding of basic obedience, I had a little runway in my house that I would throw this out a couple feet, get her real excited. She would go, bring it back to me. And that's the baby steps.
Just like a kid, you let them play with it long enough, they don't care about it.
This is an important part too, is there are no other toys. This is it. So this is the enjoyment.
So antlers is
no
it.
chew toys, no chewies, no treats. This is the reward, is having fun with this. Because so many people, the number one thing I've seen people do is like, hey, I leave sheds around my house so you're going backwards.
Yeah.
This is the reward.
Yeah.
If it's always there, it's not a reward.
Yeah.
There's nothing special about it.
Makes them want to work for it.
Correct. Yeah. So, and the whole buildup is like getting them excited. Sometimes she was like, I don't want to train today. Well, tough shit. And then I would get her excited, dance around and start playing with her. And then all of a sudden she's like, okay, you know what? I do want to do this today.
Yeah.
And then it would start a couple feet, couple yards. Now it's across the yard. Now it's in the field. And they find these things two ways: scent and visual. People forget about the visual part of it. And that Tom Dokken has a cutout that he would put out of a shed so you could visually see it.
Yeah, they can't smell it. Doesn't smell like anything.
Yeah, they associate because if you're in a cornfield, she might see it before she smells it.
Yeah.
And that if the wind isn't right or whatever, and she has done that. She started associating the visual aspect.
What kind of scent would you use for that when training that young?
So I'll get to that. That gets complicated. A lot of methods with scent because you have to remember that this is the best analogy I ever heard when it comes to dogs and deer. Cover-up scents don't work. All a cover-up scent does is add another scent to the scent profile. So like when we smell pizza, deer and dogs smell every ingredient in the pizza. They smell the pepperoni, they smell the dough, they smell the cheese, they smell the sauce. We smell pizza.
Yeah. We smell a combination of all of them.
They smell every individual aspect. So what people forget is when they're throwing sheds out to train, they might not be smelling the shed. They're smelling your hand on the shed. And they're like, well, I know where to go.
Yeah, smell him.
I smell him.
Smell Jay.
Because that's not normal. He's over there, and I smell him over there. I'm going over there because that's whatever he threw. So you have to come up with a way, and there's no perfect way. The way I ended up doing was I put my sheds in the dishwasher with scent-free soap just to try to clean them, and then I would use gloves and then throw them after that. I'd put them in a scent-free bucket
Now,
best I could.
Is there something to say you set the sheds a week before you go and try to find them?
I've done that too.
So they're weathered, kind of?
Yep, and I've left them out for a couple days in the weather, and you can do that as well. And then there are, you can buy a shed scent that you could add to training items. And from what I understand, it's ground up hair and blood like a pedicle would be.
Okay. Yeah, so I was going to ask that question. So they're out there looking for the shed. Obviously, if they see it, you've trained them to see the shed to pick it up. What scent are they picking up? Is it the deer? Is it the antler? Is it the blood?
It's all
Is
the
it
above.
fresh?
So the least thing they're going to smell is the antler itself.
Yeah, so a weathered antler that's been out there for a year,
Might be a tough one.
that might just be off site.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
That's what I didn't know if the antlers themselves had a scent or if it's from the pedicle, from the blood, from the deer.
Yeah. The pedicle, obviously, the fresher the shed, the more scent it has. Okay. The pedicle is going to hold the most amount of scent because it's a little bit of blood, it's a little bit of hair, it's a little bit of skin. That's going to hold the most. And from what I understand, that's what they make this scent that you can buy out of. They grind it up and make a scent out of it.
Because it's the same thing. From what I understand, what I've been told, I'm not an expert, blood tracking dogs, it's the same thing. They're not tracking the blood. They're tracking the scent from the deer's
That
foot.
makes a lot of sense.
Scent
That makes a lot of
glands
sense.
and
Because
mixed with the blood from that
Because
deer.
how, I don't, again, not a professional, but if you're the dog, I don't know if you're going to differentiate between all these different animals in the woods' blood.
Yeah.
But you will differentiate deer scent from raccoon scent.
And there may be an expert that can share more on this, but when it comes to blood tracking, there's something that the deer releases in its pheromones or in its
Yeah, that's
scent
why they stomp.
when it's wounded. That's what the blood tracking dogs
Yeah, that makes
follow.
sense.
Yeah.
like what's
So that's how,
stressed or
if there's 30 deer that run through this area, that blood tracking dog can allegedly follow the one that's wounded,
Yeah,
even if there is no blood. It's
that
from
makes sense.
whatever that deer releases when it's wounded.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense.
I'm not an expert. That's what we've been told by
Yeah.
the blood tracking dogs.
There's a couple real basic, again, I followed things that made sense to me, and this is one of those. When you are training, don't train until they're tired. Train right up to the point where they want to do more and you stop.
keep them going.
And that makes them want to come back more. You don't want to burn them out. And that has a lot to do with their age and their attention span. So the older they get, the longer they can train. And just as they're the most excited they can be, that's when you stop.
Cut them off. So they're looking forward to next time.
Because they can't wait until the next time. And that made a lot of sense to me. Again, the positive reinforcement as opposed to the negative made a lot of sense to me. Like, you don't want... It's not that like everybody gets a trophy mentality type thing, but it's when you're training an animal, it's supposed to be fun. It made sense to me that if it's fun, they're going to want to come back for more as opposed to working out of fear of being punished. I just didn't want to operate that way.
Yeah. And not to mention, this is a dog that's going to
my
live
pet.
in your house.
Yeah.
your pet.
Yeah.
It's not in a kennel out back like a coon hound. Or
Exactly. So structurally, when you structure your training, start easy, make it very easy, make it fun, and always set the dog up for success. So we would go out on shed hunts where we wouldn't find shit, but I would keep a shed in my pack to where we wouldn't go more than 20, 30 minutes without her finding a shed, which
Yeah.
would be the one I threw out, and she would be successful and bring it back to me. And that, because what she's going to get bummed out, and just keeping it fun, keeping it light, and keeping her happy and successful. I think that's a big part of it. Boy, I covered a lot already. Jeez. Different terrain, cover versus field. Switch that up. Woods, crop, CRP.
Yeah. So where do shed dogs do better? Like if you're shed hunting a giant open cornfield, there's probably some sheds out there. Do they do well in that, or do they do well in the thickets?
I can only
bottoms?
speak to what I've seen her do, and she has been equally successful in all three.
Okay.
In all three is hip high grass, forest, and crop fields. I've seen her, like, I would say the furthest out I've seen her get one was crop. Like, it was open. I think she smelled it.
Saw it or
Well, I think she smelled it from real far away, and then I can always tell when she smells one because she'll start, zigzagging, and then she picked her head up and saw it really far, and just, then she beelined it too. Use the wind in your favor for training. Always work into the wind. Again, setting her up for success.
that way, if you stumble on one, she can smell it.
Yeah, exactly. The hand signals again. All different sizes of sheds. So do small ones, do big ones, because, there's a big difference between that and this for a dog. You know what I mean? Like,
If you always train with this, she won't even know this is
right.
Yeah.
And vice versa. She might be intimidated by this if she's always training with that. So use different sheds, all kinds of different sizes. Don't just train in your yard. Do different. Go to different places. All that. I would say her. Actually, my buddy Ryan from work sent me a message. Her greatest, I would say, find was my buddy Ryan. He has some really good property in Southern Ohio, and he's like, "Hey, dude, would you mind bringing Kaya down?" He goes, "I have 2 target bucks that I don't know if they made it." He's like, "They disappeared off camera, but would you mind bringing her down to see if we find sheds?" And not only did she find one, she found, and this is when he freaked out, she found the one side of a great deer. It's one of the pictures that I sent.
Caleb will probably have that in the introduction. I would assume.
It's a really great picture where she's so proud, and I had to capture it. She's holding it in her mouth. It was his one target buck, so we knew that one made it. And then this other one, we're walking through, and it's kind of like this, immature forest to immature timber area. A lot of acorns, a lot of oaks and leaves. Oh, she starts pawing around, and she picks up like this much of an antler, this much. And he goes, "No way."
The buck broke off.
I'm like, "Oh, this looks like a broken tine." He goes, "Yeah." And he pulls up the last trail cam footage he has of that deer with a
broken tine
broke.
from that buck. Wow,
Yeah, and that's her
pretty cool.
greatest find, man.
That's
like
crazy.
And like we were beside ourselves, like all three of us. Kaya's excited, I'm excited, and it was just a good, fun trip, and that was really cool.
Awesome.
So, shout out to Ryan, man, and he hooked me up with. He's a master woodworker, and he hooked me up with some awesome cornhole boards as a thank you. So
That's sweet.
yeah, it was cool, man. That was a great time.
That's not your deer call guy, is it?
No.
Okay.
Nope.
'Cause I still
Ryan's
have
just a
that
buddy
deer-
from
I
work.
still have that deer call from your deer call guy.
Yeah, no, I just talked to him the other day. So on to the Q&A.
Yeah, I have a couple questions.
Yeah, sure.
I don't know if they'll come up in these are all questions from Reddit, I think, right?
Yep.
So these are some wormhole questions.
Fuck you, Instagram. Nobody responds to it.
Yeah. So if you got questions for us next time, go to Instagram and give them to
Please.
us. Yeah. Is it a exercise of futility if somebody wants to train their dog to be a shed dog? Whether it be a year old, 3 years old.
I think
Because this comes up a lot.
It does, and that's definitely it's a lot of the questions in here. I would say curb your expectations if you're going to do it.
Okay.
The only way I would say no is based on your expectations. So if you think she's going to end up, or if you think your dog's going to end up like her, and she's 8 years old, it ain't happening.
It ain't happening.
Yeah.
Also, what is your dog's basic obedience level?
Okay.
If it's just been a pet that runs around the woods with you and doesn't sit, stay, or come when you tell her or him to do, again, just have fun with it and have zero expectations.
Because there's nothing wrong with having your dog, your pet, go out and shed hunt with you.
No.
And if you can maybe do something to try to
My dad
train them.
found several sheds just walking in the woods with
Yeah,
them.
to just
But
train them that say, hey,
they
if you
use
find
it
this
as a
out in the
chew
woods,
Yeah, like
grab it.
again, if I would say if your dog's like 8 years old, no basic obedience, and you think you're gonna go and tell him which way to go, and then she's gonna find one and bring it to you, sit next to you, and look up at you with it in its mouth, probably not gonna happen.
See, it's funny. My old dog, I have a funny story about shed hunting. I would just play with her with sheds and stuff in the yard, and we went out one time, and it's one of the bigger sheds back here. It's from a buck we call Senior. She went right to it. I did see it first, but she went right to it. She didn't even pick it up. She just started sniffing at it and messing around, and I went over there. I'm like, maybe we're onto something.
Yeah.
A month later, the match to that shed, same thing. And it's actually on video. Caleb has a video of it. We're walking through field across the road, nice big shed, and we see it, and we're like, oh, let's see what the dog's going to do. She walks right over it like that. Doesn't even look at it. Literally hits it with her leg.
Yeah.
Doesn't even look at it. I'm like, well, that dream was tarnished.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's you have to have some reasonable expectations. I think if this is just my opinion. Again, I'm just some dude who went all in on it. I just from what I learned in my experience, it would be really difficult to take a dog that's already has habits to just think you're going to turn it into this amazing shed dog.
Yeah, social media shed dog.
Yeah, and
release
that's
them into the woods.
That's the
find
one
shed.
thing that is a bit annoying to me because I know what her capabilities are and were
compounded with the amount of work and training that went into that.
Yeah, and I see a lot of people with shed dogs who never I just feel like a lot of it is staged.
Yeah, look at
because
the sheds that Lucy
very
found.
easy to do.
Yeah.
Because honestly, in all honesty, one of the pictures that Caleb posted was a staged picture. Like she didn't. We found it together for sure, but she didn't pick it up. She didn't bring it to me. I put it in her mouth for the picture.
Yeah.
And it's very easy to do. And go look what my dog.
And it's
found.
a very cool thing to post.
Now, the other pictures that when she was younger, very organic. She found all of those by herself. I have boxes of sheds that she's found organically on her own. But I'm just being honest, it's very easy thing to stage and get some social media clout with you. Most retrievers will hold something in their mouth.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Another question. How long is too long between training, between seasons, do you got to go every day, every week, every month?
Good question.
Like if you forget to do it for 2 months, are you toast?
I wouldn't say toast, but I would try to stay as consistent as possible. And I would say her biggest fallback was when I built my house because I was staying in an apartment. She was staying with my folks and even her obedience was
So no training for months, basically.
the best I could with the time I had. But again, that's another important point is if you have a family, everybody better be on board.
Yeah.
Because if you're doing one thing and your kids and wife are doing another,
here's a Cheerio. Sit.
Yeah.
It's a problem.
That's a real problem. Like it has to be across the board, consistency and everybody on board. No human food, no treats, none of that nonsense. It's just going to unwind everything you've done. And that's hard, man. That is a really hard thing. Again, you just have to have you have to have your expectations. It's like most things in life, but for some reason, this is one of those things. Well, I don't understand why. Well, your training here is 1/4 of the time, and your wife and kids are 3/4 of the time.
Mm-hmm.
It's not going to happen.
Yeah.
It's just not going to happen. So, the time thing, that was 8 months of when I could get to her. And that was really kind of, we had 3 good years of sheds, hunting. And also I think that's their prime too.
Yeah.
She'll
Go ahead. Sorry.
go ahead.
No, I was going to say, how long did you wait till you threw hard antler instead of the toy? Like, was there a certain...
I think it was after she was done teething. I think there was, I think there's some Bill talks about that, about overcoming the,
What is that, like a year old
it's
or
either
something?
Jeremy, I can't remember which one of the 3. Again, shout out to those 3. Jeremy, Moore, Tom Dokken, Bill Hillman. One of them talked about overcoming their soft mouths with bone. And one of it is like a wooden dowel, holding it in their mouth and letting you know it's okay to hold that in their mouth. It's just uncomfortable until they get used to it.
Yeah.
And I think there was something with the teething that had a lot to do with that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because is that like a year old, half a year old? I can't remember.
I think it's like 8 months to a year.
Okay.
Ish.
Because if people didn't know, the dogs lose their baby teeth and grow adult teeth as well.
Yeah, and that's
Baby
like,
teeth are
again,
razor sharp.
You don't want to turn them off. You want it to be enjoyable and fun, and walk that fine line of, hey, listen, you're gonna do this, but we're gonna have fun doing it.
Yeah.
Like you don't have an option to not do it.
Yeah.
Like holding the wooden dowel in the mouth. Like when you're watching the video, you're like, oh, that looks rough.
Yeah.
But it's not. They don't know what they don't know.
Yeah.
One more question before we get into the general public's questions. And I don't know if you'll have any experience with this or not, but pairs of dogs, if you go out with more than one shed dog, is it better? Is it better to train dogs together? Or is this a solo thing?
So this is total bro science, and I'm not going to answer your questions exactly how, but like the first thing that came to mind is a household of dogs. And if you introduce a trained dog into a untrained
Household.
I think you're going to have over time a bit of a balance to where the untrained dogs are going to learn a little bit of training, and your trained dog is going to
Digress
a little bit.
It's a pack.
It's a pack mentality, and I would say if you're going to do a multiple dog scenario, and I have thought about this already, as like getting ahead of the game and bringing a puppy into Kaya's life to where like a puppy's going to learn from Kaya. And total bro science. I don't know if that's real or not, but it makes sense in my head.
So that's a rabbit dog thing.
I have some experience with that, and our dogs are not trained, but we have labs. Some of the labs that we had were they listen really well, not go out and find sheds, whatever. But that younger dog does learn a lot.
I feel like they would.
Because my dad never trained them. He'd listen, come, let him outside, do what he wants. But when that younger puppy is watching that 3, 4, 5, 6-year-old dog, make him sit before he eats or give him this, he sits next to him and listens and watches, and he's doing what he's doing. And then when we all leave, that dog would used to tear stuff up, but the older dog doesn't. So he just plays with his toys or whatever and stays
So
there.
that same mentality.
I have seen that. I don't know how well it would work for,
It
Because
just
that's
makes
how they
sense,
train,
right?
right? That's how they train rabbit dogs.
Yeah.
They'll take a new rabbit dog and put it with a couple good rabbit dogs, and you'll go rabbit hunting and it'll learn.
Yeah.
What about taking your puppy out with a well-trained shed dog? Say you have a buddy that has one, or would that hurt the well-trained shed dog?
I think if I just speaking for Kaya, like if I were to take a puppy out with her, that's another thing. Well, part of the training is distraction. If they're trained well, there are no distractions. So I think it wouldn't bother her at all. Like it like the puppy's just along for the ride. If the dog's trained well, but like I watched Jeremy Moore's videos, and he doesn't like. I don't think I've ever seen a video of him training a dog. It's a group
multiple
of dogs.
Yeah.
So I think there's something to be said about that.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know. Let me see if I got anything else in my notes. No, I think I've covered a lot.
Do we have any random Reddit questions?
Yeah, we do. We got a bunch.
Okay. Random Reddit questions. So Caleb, in his forever wisdom, threw this out on Reddit, which is the general public, but it's kind of like the bottom of the shoe of the general public. Those are the folks you get on Reddit, and we'll see what they have to say about shed dogs.
Yeah. So I've probably covered a lot of this already. And I don't have names associated with these questions, so sorry. Just taught my dog to shed hunt this year and never shed hunted myself. So far, 3 antler deadheads and only 1 shed. Any thoughts on why I might be getting more deadheads than sheds? Yes. I think
stink more.
They smell more.
Yeah.
You didn't train it to shed hunt. That's why you're finding
Well, Kaya would find deadheads, but wouldn't bring them to me.
Yeah.
She'd be like, "Yeah, cool." But it's not.
That's not what you're out here for.
Yeah, because they're just smelling that rotting flesh, and that's I think they're keying in on just their DNA of like they're retrievers. They want to bring things to you. This thing smells, and I'm going to bring it to you. You're going to have that happen for sure.
Yeah, you can take your junkyard dog out with you, and it may bring you a deadhead.
Yeah, for sure. So I hope that helps some. You need to the training just needs to be more geared towards sheds. Mm-hmm. I have a chocolate lab about 8 years old. He always had an excellent nose and annuity to use it to find things to retrieve. This is a very long one. Basically, is it possible to teach him intentionally to retrieve sheds at this point in his life, and what would be a good way to start? Or is it better to just leave him be and wait to see with the next one? Well, I would say start training him for your next one. Mm-hmm. Not for him, but for you.
You're training yourself.
Yeah.
And who knows? You may get lucky where you might 100%. Find a couple or...
Yep, 100%. So I would train you with your 8-year-old lab. Have zero expectations, have fun doing it, and then find out where you fucked up, where you're successful, and pass that on to your new one.
Okay.
How long does a shed retain any smell? Good question. I have no idea.
When it comes to a dog, I'd imagine weeks to months, probably.
Probably. She's found
maybe longer than that.
She's found last year's.
Yeah, you got to think that they have some sort of scent on them.
Yeah, maybe when they're deteriorating too, they have scent.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, squirrels or mice, they chew them, opens up the bone. Or
yes,
it's more of a.
So we would say best guess, as long as they're out there.
Man, she's had a couple has found the previous year's sheds. Mm-hmm. Now, whether that was visual, maybe. I don't remember the exact scenario, but I remember some old ones. I just don't have a definitive answer. I don't.
Yeah.
But like you said, that makes perfect sense to me. Mice, moles, squirrels, when they're gnawing on it, that's kicking up scent.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And we ain't ever going to smell it. She sure can.
Yeah.
What's your process for training a good shed dog, and what breeds in particular do you like? So I think I covered a lot of that already. My process. Yeah. I think my best advice is to train what makes sense to you. So research all these trainers, get online. If it makes sense to you, so there's so many options. There's reward-based with treats. I don't want to carry treats everywhere.
Yeah.
Mine was praise. I can carry praise wherever I go.
Mm-hmm. Pet her on the head.
All hugs and get all excited and kisses, and I can carry that with me anywhere. I don't want to be handcuffed by like freaking treats.
Pocket full of biscuits.
I don't want to do that. And I also don't want to be negative-based training. You know, I don't want like punishment-based training.
Yeah.
I just don't think that's the best way.
Yeah.
So that's my process, was finding a couple trainers, and then like I would say it was probably 70% Bill Hillman, 30% Doc and Jeremy Moore. They all had something to offer, but the basics of her structure was Bill Hillman. And if you guys, I don't even know if these DVDs can be found. They are not cheap. I will hold on to those for the rest of my life. Bill Hillman you can find on YouTube. He's got little clips and stuff, and I'm going to tag him in this just to thank him. Just his style made so much sense to me. The way he talks about it, the way he structures it, I'm like, it just clicked with me.
Yeah.
And that's what I went with. I would say do that for yourself, whoever that may be.
Yeah.
So that hopefully that answers that. Are there dedicated shed dogs, or is shed hunting usually just a side hustle for a hunting dog? Are there any specific breeds that excel at being shed hunters? So question number 1, are there dedicated shed dogs? She was. She did nothing else. She wouldn't know what to do with a duck. Or
I think it'd be hard to try and do both.
I know people have.
Yeah.
I agree. It would be hard to do both.
They probably could,
but they're
not to their
probably
full potential.
okay at both,
Yeah.
not great at either.
Yeah.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yep.
Again, just being a couple dudes in a shop, I'm sure there's a trainer out there that's like, fuck you, I can like,
Do both.
awesome, dude.
If you can, let us know.
Yeah, right. And it's probably your living.
Yeah.
It's our hobby, you know.
Yeah.
Another question while I'm thinking of it. Is this an issue when you're training her being in an environment with a bunch of sheds? If you got sheds on your mantle, does that harm her training? If there's sheds laying around your house? If
No.
there's deer mounts laying around your house?
So again, I think this goes back to like you need to make them a reward. Not in the sense that they're laying around to where they can get to them all the time.
Like you don't want a coffee table decoration.
It
of 3
needs to be
sheds.
novelty.
Okay. Yeah.
It needs to be like something special that when they find that it's so incredibly fun that, and in their world rare, that they can't wait to do it again.
So if she was 16 months old and you're in the midst of her training, bringing her here would be a bad idea?
No, because I don't think it would be a thing.
150 sheds on the
Nah,
wall?
I don't think it would be a thing because I think she would be able to, it's at that point, it's a distraction.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like, now I think she would associate with environment as well. We're not in the woods.
Just a bunch of dudes.
If there was a pile of these in the woods, yeah, she'd lose her mind.
Yeah.
She'd lose her mind.
She associates where she's at in
Yeah.
the environment.
Yep,
and-
I think so.
Yeah,
Yep.
because if you only listen, there's a wall of 100 sheds sitting behind
Yeah.
us.
I don't think it would be a thing.
Okay.
Are there specific breeds? I would say you could make the argument labs are the way to go. Anytime you look at shed dog competitions and successful shed dogs, they're typically labs.
What other dogs do they use? Golden retrievers.
Golden
and,
retrievers.
you know,
I've seen
Probably
some mutts.
Pointers
Yeah.
or
You know,
pinchers. Or,
yeah, but like ultimately, I think if you want to set yourself up for success, lab is probably the way to go.
yeah.
Do you train them to bring the antler back, or do you prefer sitting and barking at the location to find? So I love a working dog. I get excited about watching her find it and bring it to me. I think that's so fun. Also, she got to a point where she was hundreds of yards away from me, out of sight, where if she found it and sat and barked, I'd be like, what the
Yeah.
Now you got to go check it out.
yeah, I'm
find
like,
it.
okay.
She could be 2 ravines over.
Yeah. So like
Has she ever done that?
what's that?
Have she ever sat down next to a shed and barked at you?
No.
No.
No, she
always
would pick
grab
it
them.
up and bring it to me.
Yeah.
The one that I would say there were a couple times, and I think these were older sheds, where she was in eyesight, and I saw her body language change, and she would start pawing at leaves. And I'm like, what do you got over there? And I would walk over there, and she was in the midst of digging
Digging one up, yeah.
So
It was kind of not definitive for her to just grab it. She had
Exactly. It was a little older. It was buried,
Gotcha.
Do you train them? Oh, okay. Sorry. I already got that. Does the dog finding the antlers take away from your excitement of shed hunting? I understand the efficiency part of it, but if someone, even a dog, just walked up to me and handed me an antler, it would be a lot less cool than finding it myself. I like to see it, where it was located, and how it was laying. So, okay, teach their own. To each their own. Yeah, I mean that to me, the idea of a shed dog is having a shed dog, and that would, I guess, be like if you're going to duck hunt and don't like dogs, don't get a duck dog.
Yeah.
Yeah, you probably felt so much better that you trained her. Now she was successful.
Because you
brought
trained her to what you
probably
wanted
10
to
times
do.
over.
To me, it's not about the sheds; it's about her.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that was the fun for me.
Yeah.
Like
It's the
sheds
fun
to
in doing
me, I don't really mean a ton. Like it was cool talking about the story with my buddy Ryan. Like that shed meant a lot to him, which meant a lot to me.
Yeah.
But sheds in and of themselves are cool, but like it was way more about her and the process and the fun training her and seeing your work play out.
Yeah.
That was it for me.
So what if we rewind all the way back to the beginning? What started you down this path?
Ooh,
Why did you get a
question.
shed dog? Did you want to get a dog and you're just like, oh, let's make it a shed dog?
No, it was I got a dog to make a shed dog. And I'm trying to think
Like, did you see a post? Did you see a video?
I was in my heyday. So this is 10 years ago, going on 11. I was in my heyday of whitetail hunting, crossing over into Western hunting. And I was going out to Iowa shed hunting, and I had so much fun doing it that I thought the idea of
bringing a dog along.
Bringing a dog would be so fun.
Pick up extra ones.
Yeah. And then just, it was like a new hobby.
Yeah.
Well, the hobby turned into an obsession, and the amount of hours I can't really put into words. It was, I became obsessed. Like I had to dial it back because I had so much fun training her. Watching the little increments of success and like seeing her respond and all that, I became obsessed, and it really became fun. It became all about her, and the sheds were just, a means to an end.
Yeah.
So
cool.
That's always exciting though, because you're doing it and you're training something to do what you want to do.
Exactly.
And it works out, and it
Yeah, and I had no
That's
expectations.
fun.
And I'm like, wait a minute, this is actually working.
Yeah.
And
awesome.
it was a lot of fun, man.
Yeah.
So we could probably get close to wrapping it up. What is one, and this can go as long as you want, one piece of advice you would give if somebody was 100% in to getting a shed dog? What could you tell them to deter or encourage?
The number one thing is check yourself. I think most people have a real hard time when things they're not going to go your way. There are going to be times you're going to get super frustrated, and
doesn't mean beat the shit out of the dog.
Yeah, and you're gonna blame the dog, and it's not the fucking dog, it's you.
It's you.
Yeah.
And have patience. Do you want me to finish these questions up, or?
Yeah, if there's any other good ones.
Yeah. Took my dog out. All it brought back was bones. Again, that goes back to the shed head or the dead head stuff. How do you go about getting the dog excited about antlers? So that is as simple as getting the dog excited.
It's kind of how you described in the beginning. Like, make it a trophy for them.
Correct.
Don't make it a toy.
Yeah. It's not. It has to be a novelty. It can't be an every hour thing. There's ones laying around.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think you described it pretty good on how to.
I think that's about it.
That's about it.
Yeah. But that would be my number one advice: is check yourself. It's about you, as far as putting your ego aside, being patient. And it's not the dog's fault. It's yours. Figure it out. And then my next one would be believe in the training And what I mean by that is find a trainer that you're going to model your training after that makes sense to you. Maybe you look these guys up and you're like, that doesn't make sense to me. Well, then it's probably not going to work for you because you have to believe in it. You can't. The best salesmen are people who sell products that they actually use.
Same thing.
It's the same thing. You know, if you don't believe in it, you're not going to sell it.
Yeah.
So that's the best I got. And guys, I get excited about it. Like I'm ready to go buy another fucking dog right now.
That was my last question. Would you do it again?
Yeah, 100%.
Okay.
If I could find the time, 100%, I would do it again. I had so much fun doing it. I have regrets that were out of my control. I wish much like you, if you were to have gotten a shed dog last year, life gets in the way, right? You're getting married, you're building a house, and that was me like 3 years in, where she was in her prime, and she took a big step back because just life got in the way. I would like to do it again, and then go, oh, what can I really max out with the potential, and I love it. I love talking about it. If anybody has any questions or wants to hit me up, please hit me up at Harvest Moon Outdoorsman on Instagram.
He's starting his own shed dog training too.
Well, the one cool thing about a shed dog, especially the way that you went through the training, is when you do give up, you're left with an awesome dog.
100%.
Not so much a hound dog, a coon dog.
It's the best pet you will ever have.
Okay.
I just noticed the other day, I was I spent the day with my father yesterday, and my father's very ill. My mom has said that anytime Kaya is over there, she's like a therapy dog for my dad. Like she just goes up to him and just sits, and he's calmer, he's better. Yeah. My father, he has Parkinson's, so he is just like seems to be healthier when she's there. It's just really kind of an amazing thing. Yeah. And
that's awesome.
That's a win, man.
So we had lots of negatives to the shed dog. This is a huge encouragement. When you do say you give up or you do retire the dog, you are left with a awesome, well-behaved,
trained, listens.
You don't have 4 screaming beagles in the backyard for the next 12 years.
It's incredible. Kind of bringing it, I don't want to drag this out too long, but like you brought up environment with all the sheds here, how that would impact her. So when she's at my folks' house, she's allowed to get on the couch. When she's at my house, no, she ain't. And she knows she never tries to get on the couch at my house. Yeah. But at my mom's, she knows she can get up there.
They're smart, man.
So it's something like it's not just couches; it's environment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
cool.
It's cool.
Know.
Well, on that, I think we're going to wrap it up.
Cool.
We went for a while. Hope you guys enjoyed this. Hope you enjoyed a look into what a shed dog is past the social media aspect of it. And thanks for listening.
Yeah, hit me up if you guys got any questions.
Yep. Deer Shot Podcast, episode 88, and we are out.
We out.